She killed the same lavender plant 4 times. A Provence
worry,
farmer told her,
mademoiselle.
"You're
The
loving
lavender
it
is
to
healthy.
death." Today, 8
It's-
secrets to lavender that never dies. Number 5 breaks everything you know about feeding plants. Subscribe now or you'll miss the fix that saves it this winter. Number 1, the soil test almost nobody does. Lavender is a Mediterranean plant. It evolved on limestone hillsides in France, Spain, and Italy. Rocky, alkaline, bone-dry soil that would kill most garden plants. If your soil is the rich, dark, moisture-retaining loam that tomatoes and lettuce love, that same soil is a death sentence for lavender. Here's the specific problem. Most American garden soil, especially in the Midwest, Pacific Northwest, and Southeast, is naturally acidic to neutral, and it holds water. Lavender wants a pH between 6.5 and 8.0, and it wants water to drain through in seconds, not minutes. If you've ever dug a hole, filled it with water, and watched it sit there for an hour, that's the exact hole lavender roots will suffocate in. The fix is shockingly simple and takes 10 minutes. Mix your native soil 50-50 with coarse sand or fine gravel and toss in a handful of crushed limestone or garden lime. You're not trying to make good soil. You're trying to make soil that mimics a rocky hillside. Test your drainage first. Dig a hole a foot deep, fill it with water, and if it hasn't drained within an hour, lavender will die there, no matter what else you do right. Here's the fact that surprises people. Lavender actually performs better in soil most gardeners would call bad or poor than in the rich, compost-heavy beds we're taught to build for everything else. But even with perfect soil, there's a watering mistake that kills more lavender than drought ever does, and it's coming up next. 2. The watering habit that's actually drowning your plant. Everyone assumes lavender needs regular watering, like most garden plants. It doesn't, and treating it like it does is probably the single most common cause of death. Lavender roots need oxygen just as much as they need water. When you water on a schedule, say every other day because that's what your sprinkler does for the rest of the yard, you never give the soil a chance to fully dry out between waterings. The roots sit in low oxygen, moist soil, and a fungal disease called root rot moves in silently. By the time you see brown, wilting leaves, the roots are often already dead. And here's the cruel irony. Wilting looks exactly like the plant is thirsty, so most people respond by watering even more, which finishes the job. The real rule is water deeply, then wait until the top 2 to 3 inches of soil are completely dry before watering again. In many climates, that means once a week in the first year while roots establish, and once every 2 to 3 weeks, or not at all if you get regular rain, once the plant is mature. Established lavender in much of the US can survive entirely on rainfall once the plant is mature. The surprising fact, a mature, well-established lavender plant can go 3 to 4 weeks without any water at all in moderate climates and come out healthier than a plant watered every 3 days. Once you fix the watering, there's still one more silent killer hiding at the base of the plant, and it has nothing to do with water or soil at all. Quick pause. Be honest with me for a second. Are you watering your lavender on the same schedule as your other plants right now? If you are, so you might be watching your plant slowly drown without even knowing it. That's exactly why I do these deep dive videos instead of quick tip lists, because the wrong, obvious advice is what's actually killing most people's plants. If that hit home, hit subscribe and tap the like button, because next week's video breaks down the top 5 plants that are secretly killing each other when planted next to your lavender. 3. The mulch mistake that suffocates the crown. Mulch is supposed to help plants. Around lavender, the wrong mulch, or mulch piled the wrong way, does the opposite. Wood chips, bark mulch, and shredded leaves hold moisture right against the base of the plant, called the crown, and that trapped moisture rots the woody stems from the ground up. The visual damage often shows up months later. Gray, woody, leafless stems radiating outward from a dead center, even though the outer branches still look green. Gardeners call this lavender going woody. And while some of it is natural aging, moisture-holding mulch dramatically speeds it up and can kill a plant in its 2nd or 3rd year, right when it should be hitting its prime. The fix is to use inorganic mulch instead. Pea gravel, crushed granite, or decomposed granite spread in a 2-inch layer, kept an inch or two away from direct contact with the stems. This mimics the rocky ground lavender evolved in, reflects heat back up into the plant, which lavender loves, and keeps the crown bone dry while still suppressing weeds. The fact almost nobody knows, that same rock mulch actually improves fragrance and oil concentration because heat stress on the leaves increases essential oil production. The same reason lavender grown in hot, dry regions smells stronger than lavender grown in humid ones. That woody, leggy look isn't just ugly, it's often a warning sign of a mistake almost everyone makes with pruning, and it's coming up in just a moment. 4. The pruning rule that determines if it survives winter. Most people either never prune their lavender or they prune it at the wrong time of year, and both mistakes are fatal in slightly different ways. If you never prune, the plant naturally grows into a woody, hollow-centered shrub within 3 to 4 years, with all the new growth pushed out to the edges and a dead-looking core. Eventually, a hard winter, a heavy snow load, or just old age causes the whole plant to split open and die. If you prune at the wrong time, specifically hard pruning in late fall, you force the plant to put out tender new growth right before winter, and that new growth has zero time to harden off before frost kills it back to the ground, sometimes taking the whole plant with it. The correct timing is to prune twice, a light shaping right after the first bloom flush in early to mid-summer, and then the real structural prune in early spring, just as new growth starts to show at the base, never in fall. When you prune, always cut back into green, leafy growth, and never cut into the bare, woody stems below, because lavender, unlike many other shrubs, usually cannot resprout from old wood. Cut too hard into wood, and that branch is gone for good. The shocking part? A lavender plant that's properly pruned twice a year can be kept vigorous, full, and blooming for 15 to 20 plus years, while an unpruned plant of the same variety often collapses and dies within 5. And this leads into secret number 5, the one that surprises almost everyone, because it goes against everything we're taught about taking care of plants. 5. Why feeding your lavender is probably killing it. This is the one that changes how people think about gardening in general. We're conditioned to believe that plants need fertilizer to thrive. More nutrients equals a healthier plant. For lavender, that logic is almost completely backwards. Lavender evolved in nutrient-poor, rocky soil, where almost nothing else could survive, and it built its entire survival strategy around thriving with scarcity. When you feed lavender rich fertilizer, especially anything high in nitrogen, like most all-purpose plant food and lawn fertilizer runoff, you force it into a growth pattern it isn't built for. It produces fast, soft, weak, leggy growth instead of the dense, compact, woody structure that actually survives frost, wind, and drought. That soft growth is also far more vulnerable to fungal disease and pests, and it's far less winter hardy. Gardeners who fertilize their lavender regularly, thinking they're helping it, often end up with a plant that looks lush and green for one season and then collapses the following winter, while the neglected lavender in poor soil down the street, never fed once, is still thriving after a decade. If you feed it at all, a single light application of low nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium-focused fertilizer in early spring is the absolute maximum, and most established plants in average garden soil need none at all. The fact that surprises even experienced gardeners, the poorer and rockier the soil, the stronger and longer-lived the lavender plant tends to be, the exact opposite of almost every other plant in your yard. Once you stop overfeeding it, there's still a spacing mistake almost everyone makes when they first plant lavender, and it silently strangles the plant from the inside for years before it finally dies. Quick question for you. When you planted your lavender, did you space it out based on how big the little nursery pot looked on day one? Almost everyone does, and it's one of the quiet killers we just talked about. If you've made any of these mistakes so far, don't worry. That's exactly what this channel is for. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because next I'm covering the 6 companion plants that actually help lavender thrive versus the ones secretly stealing its water underground. 6. The spacing mistake that strangles airflow. Lavender is planted too close together more often than almost any other shrub because gardeners plant based on the plant's current small size rather than its mature size. A 1-gallon lavender plant looks tiny and lonely with 2 feet of bare dirt around it, so it gets planted 12 to 15 inches from its neighbor. Within 2 to 3 years, that gap disappears entirely. The problem isn't just aesthetics. Lavender depends on constant airflow around its leaves and stems to stay dry after rain or morning dew. When plants crowd together, humidity gets trapped inside the dense foliage, and that trapped humidity is exactly the environment that fungal diseases like botrytis and root rot need to take hold. Crowded lavender plants also compete underground for the exact dry, well-drained soil conditions they both require, weakening both plants simultaneously. The correct spacing for most standard lavender varieties, like English lavender, Lavandula angustifolia, is 24 to 36 inches apart, center to center, noticeably wider than feels right when the plants are young. For larger varieties, like Grosso or Provence lavender, that gap should be closer to 36 to 48 inches. The surprising fact, properly spaced lavender plants, despite looking sparse for the first year or two, actually fill in and bloom more fully by year 3 than closely spaced plants, because they aren't competing for root space or airflow. But spacing alone won't save a plant if it's in the wrong climate zone for its variety, and that mismatch is the next hidden killer. Not all lavender is the same plant with different names, and this mismatch quietly kills more lavender in the US than almost any single care mistake. English lavender, Lavandula angustifolia, is the cold-hardy type, surviving winters down to about -20 degrees Fahrenheit in USDA zones 5 through 8. French and Spanish lavender, Lavandula dentata and Lavandula stoicis, look similar on a garden center shelf but are only hardy to about 20 degrees Fahrenheit, thriving in zones 8 through 10. The common scenario: a gardener in Ohio, Minnesota, or upstate New York buys a beautiful, fragrant French or Spanish lavender from a big box store in spring because it was blooming and looked healthiest on the shelf, with no zone information anywhere on the tag. It grows beautifully all summer. Then the first hard frost hits, and the plant that should have survived winter is dead by January because it was never built for that climate in the first place. The fix takes 30 seconds before you ever buy a plant. Check your USDA hardiness zone, then check the specific variety and cultivar name, not just lavender, against that zone. English lavender varieties like Munstead and Hidcote are the safest, most cold-hardy choices for the majority of the continental US. The fact that surprises new gardeners: 2 plants can sit side by side on the exact same store shelf, both labeled simply lavender, and one can be built to survive a Minnesota winter, while the other is built for a Southern California one, with nothing on the tag warning you which is which. And once you've matched the right variety to your climate, there's one final secret: the reason some lavender plants seem to live forever with almost zero effort, while identical plants nearby struggle every single year. 8. The never dies secret. Full sun, no exceptions. This is the secret that ties every other mistake together, and it's the most common reason a lavender plant does okay instead of truly thriving for decades: not enough direct sun. Lavender needs a minimum of 6 to 8 hours of direct, unfiltered sunlight every single day. And in cooler, cloudier climates, more is always better, not less. Partial shade, dappled light under a tree, or even a spot that gets full morning sun but afternoon shade from a fence or house is enough to weaken a lavender plant permanently. Undersunned lavender grows tall, thin, and floppy instead of dense and compact, produces far fewer flowers and far less fragrant oil, and becomes noticeably more vulnerable to every problem we've already covered: fungal disease from retained moisture, weak woody structure, and poor winter survival. Here's why this secret ties everything together. Full sun isn't just one more item on a checklist, it's the condition that makes every other fix actually work. Full sun dries out that well-draining soil quickly after rain. Full sun keeps the crown and rock mulch warm and dry. Full sun produces the dense, compact, woody growth that survives hard pruning and harsh winters. Take Take away the sun, and even perfect soil, watering, and pruning can't fully save the plant. The surprising fact, gardeners who move a struggling, always sickly lavender plant from a partly shaded spot into a full sun location often see it completely transform within a single growing season. Same plant, same soil, same care routine, just more light. Here's the pattern running underneath all 8 of these secrets. Every single mistake we covered, bad soil, overwatering, moisture-holding mulch, wrong time pruning, overfeeding, tight spacing, wrong variety, not enough sun, is really the same mistake wearing 8 different disguises. It's treating lavender like a plant that needs comfort, richness, and constant attention, when what it actually needs is to be left alone in harsh, lean, sun-baked conditions that would kill almost anything else in your yard. Lavender doesn't die from neglect. It dies from being cared for like every other plant in the garden. The moment you stop trying to make it comfortable and start letting it be tough, it stops needing you. And that's exactly when it lives for decades instead of months. If you want the next piece of this puzzle, I've got a video coming up on the 6 companion plants that actually help lavender thrive versus the ones quietly stealing its water and killing it from underground. And trust me, a few of the classic pairings everyone recommends are on the danger list. Before you go, if this saved a plant you've been struggling with, or if you're about to replant lavender the right way for the first time, hit subscribe. I'm building this channel around the real reasons plants live or die, not just recycled tips, and I'd love to have you here for it. Drop a comment below and tell me which of these 8 secrets surprised you the most, or just tell me what city or state you're gardening in. I'm curious how many different climates are watching this. I read every single comment, so I'll see you down there. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.